This is the very last Cinematic Void screening of 2021. How's everyone doing tonight? That's more like it. I am Jim Branscombe. I'm the host of Cinematic Void, and tonight we are screening one of my all-time favorite movies, one of my favorite New Year's movies, and you know, I'm really excited because we have a bunch of people from the cast and crew here tonight. We're showing Get Crazy. Has anyone here not seen Get Crazy before? Ooh. I always like this because I like having people not having seen the movie before because it opens up your world. So I'm not going to talk a lot about Get Crazy, but I'm going to talk about some things we have coming up. So this is the last Cinematic Void of 2021. The first Cinematic Void of 2022 will be on January 1st. We're doing Night of the Comet here. It's a 4 p.m. screening, and we have the star Kelly Maroney in the house for that. So those tickets are selling pretty fast. So if you want to come to that and kick off your New Year's in the Void, come on down. And of course, we have January Giallo coming. The most exhausting, ridiculous thing I've ever planned was doing 3 venues across the country. We're going to be here every Monday in January. We're showing everything from, you know, classics like Dario Argento's Creepers, Phenomena. We're showing a lot of deep cuts here that I'm really excited about. And we're showing The Perfume of the Lady in Black, which is a beautiful Technicolor print from Italy. So if you don't have tickets for that if you're going to go to one Giallo in January, that is the one to go to. And I can make this announcement. I might as well tell you about February 2. On February 4th, we're going to be here, and we're going to be showing the new restoration from Grindhouse releasing of Death Game. You guys haven't seen Death Game, have you? We'll save that for another time. But before we get into tonight's movie, I want to bring up a special guest to kind of introduce it. And also, we have Blu-ray giveaway. Who wants a copy of this Blu-ray? Guess what? You're going to have to study and pay attention during the movie, because if you don't, you will not win one of these. So, study up. But before we get into Get Crazy, I want to bring up the director of this movie, because there's a long, fabled history from the creation of this movie to where we're at today, to this Blu-ray. So please, give it up for Alan Arkish!
Hour and 25 minutes, it will be midnight up on the screen, okay? So, just out of curiosity, this movie came out in July of 1983. How many of you were not yet born? Okay, so we have a couple of people on Social Security. Okay. So, we have guests tonight. I'm just going to have them say hello right away. Nada, the character of Nada, Laurie Isad. Are you here, Laurie? Come on, stand up, say hello. How about Lee? Is Lee here?
Not yet.
All right. And I want to introduce to you one of our editors. We had a 3-person editorial team. And I'm going to really hype this, okay? I've known this editor since my first day as a paid professional. That was our first day in 1976. So he's done a few things since then. I'm going to read them out. Piranha, The Howling, this little movie called The Terminator, Rambo, Predator 2, Terminator 2, True Lies, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, Armageddon, X-Men: The Last Stand, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Let's hear it for Mark Goldblatt. So I just want to spread it around to everybody, and I think there are more people here tonight that have seen this on home video since it came out. As you know, the movie came out, nobody saw it. They pulled it after a week. And then a couple of years later, when it came time for home video, they lost the negative and the picture. And it disappeared for 30 years, 35 years. And was found in the MGM vaults, and I've spent the last year putting it together with the original editorial team. We got back together, you know? And one of the editors is a professor at AFI, Michael Jablow, and also Kent Beta. And in any case, I want you to enjoy the movie. It goes back to my days as a film student at NYU. I had a job at a rock and roll theater, and together with one of my NYU friends, we came up with this idea. And it's very encouraging because it only took 52 years to get to it tonight, so look on the bright side. Thanks. Oh, wait, Happy New Year?
Hey, Alan, don't go quite yet. So, since last year, we didn't really get a New Year's for obvious reasons. I figured we're going to have a ball drop before we get into Get Crazy. So, I'm going to put the mic down, I'm going to cue the projectionist, we're going to do a ball drop, and we're going to do our countdown to Get Crazy. So, everyone ready? Now, one last thing. Once the movie starts, do not blow your horns. Please don't, because someone's going to take it and shove it in a place that you don't want it. So, without further ado, hey Scott in the booth, let's get to the countdown. Well, we're now in 1983, so let's bring up our panel. Please welcome to the stage, Donna herself, Laurie Eastside. You also know him as Piggy. Please welcome to the stage, Lee Bing. And of course, the writer and director of this film, Alan Arkish. Keep it up. They're not on the stage yet. Yeah, wherever you want. It's free. Happy New Year.
One, two, three, four.
We had no fun making this, none.
So Alan, I think we can do our first trivia before we get into it. So I think you had a question you wanted to ask the audience.
Oh, okay. First question. Okay. What is the name of the band that Lee Ving is in and started?
Hello, Fear.
Well, the guy in the front row was really quick.
Yes, go with it.
It was the back row.
Real band.
Fear.
Yes.
So we're going to do this throughout the Q&A.
Okay.
We're going to keep everyone on their toes.
Damage. Fuck Christmas. Melting melodies that you just can't erase from your mind.
Please write fuck Christmas, because New Year's is where it's at. So Alan, why don't you tell us about how this came to be, Get Crazy?
Okay, so Daniel Patashu and I were working at the Fillmore East on the stage crew. along with a bunch of other people, and this, in our minds, is kind of what it was like, okay? It was very intense, and the experience, if you notice that Danny Stern never sits down in the course of the movie. That is pretty much the way it was, and it was that kind of atmosphere. We were living it. We were working on the Fillmore, at the Fillmore maybe Fridays till Sunday morning, going to NYU, and we decided that we wanted to make a movie about it, like about 1970, and then all during the 70s, I worked for Roger Corman, and that's when I did Rock and Roll High School, and Danny went off and became a roadie for Bob Dylan, among other people. And we got together, we decided, I had a terrible flop of a movie, and I decided I wanted to get back to doing a rock and roll movie. So Danny and I worked out the outline for this movie, and that was called Hell's a Rockin', which is based on an Olsen and Johnson movie called Hell's a Poppin', but any case, it was very much like this. But it was set in the late 60s, and it was more of a memoir and a different feel. It was not as frantic or crazy, and storyline was different. We could not sell it. We sold it finally to a company who said, we will buy this and make this if you bring it up to date 1983, which is when we made it. So we did that, and Danny did a bunch of drafts, and then they told me that, well, we will now put this into production, but it needs more nudity. It needs to be more like Porky's, which was a big hit. And it needs to be more like Airplane, a joke a minute. And at that point, in all fairness, my career was nowhere, and I really was into this movie, and I loved the music and so forth. So Danny wished me well, and he left, and we added 2 more writers, and we started going to make the movie. Now, the entire movie is made at the Wiltern Theater.
Wow. I never filmed anything in New York. And I never left California to make this movie.
That's right, we were right there on the Wiltern.
Well, that was the sound stage that we filmed on?
That was everything at the Wiltern. We took over the Wiltern, and even the airplane spinning, that was done in the parking lot. And there was 700 extras there on certain nights. And every day we had Janet Cunningham, got us all those extras, and some of them started living in the building. And we started casting the movie. The first person cast in the movie was Lou Reed. And I had lunch with Lou Reed and just professed how much I loved his work. And he said yes. And then we got on a plane and we went to Chicago, and we met with the person that King Blues is based on. Who could guess? Who sang Hoochie Coochie Man?
I don't know, raise your hands, don't
Yes, whoever does that gets a...
Yours right there.
Yes!
Come on down, you with a blue.
And I met Muddy Waters in the airport. We had a meeting, and he said yes. But then he developed heart trouble. So we were looking for a nada, and so I had seen on videotape this incredible dancer choreographer, and I called her in New York, and then this happened. Where were you living?
I get this phone call, and this guy says, I'm like, hello? And this guy says, yeah, hey, I'm calling from Hollywood, I'm a director, and I'm doing this film about the Fillmore East. And I went, yeah? I live across the street. I'm looking at it out my bedroom window, the big fire escape. And I'm thinking it's a joke. I'm like, yeah, right, who is this? And he's like, no, really, I'm serious. And I'm like, you're right, okay. Oh, sure, I'll do it. And I just hang up, you know. And then he calls me back, like on a conference call with the producer, and asks me again. And I'm like, who is this? I really thought it was a joke. Because I've never done a movie before. As a choreographer, a couple little films and stuff, but never. Actually, he was calling me for the choreography, that's right. And anyways, so he goes, well, we'll send you a script and then let us know what you think. So sure enough, FedEx, the next day I get a script, and I was like, oh shit, this is real. God, I hope I can still get this. And then they call me, and I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And they said, we got to be in LA for 3 months. And then they said so much, such and such dollars, and I'm like, 3 months for that amount of money? I can't do that. Dang, where am I gonna, what? And so he goes, all right, well, we'll call you back. And then he calls me back and he goes, oh, I didn't know you were in a band and you could sing and stuff like that. So he offered me.
The band was Kid Creole and the Coconuts.
Yeah,
And we watched the video and we decided, just from being on the phone, that this person had an excess of personality. And we got the part.
Yeah, I told him, yo, I gotta bring my friend Susie Sidewinder with me. And he's like, who's that? I go, my partner, like in crime and shit. And he goes, oh, okay. So I get 2 tickets, and I'm like, dang, you know, let's go over. So me and her are like, whoa, this is shit, this is crazy. And so we get on a plane, and the whole way there we're singing that, like, Laverne and Shirley, you know? Give us any chance, we'll take it. Give us any rule, bring it. And we rewrite the movie. You know, we start writing in our
They brought the song with them. I'm not
yeah,
gonna
my
take
roommate,
it no
he
more.
said, oh, and Alan goes, and if you have a song, bring it with. And I'm like, my roommate had that song. And we rewrote the lyrics because about some girl going to a prom, and it was really pretty dorky.
So she gets to LA, we're putting together the
Yeah,
band.
and then there's a side, get crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, this is so
Car
cool.
at the airport, you know.
And then they take us to the Wiltern Theater. I'm like, Emerald City, what is this place? You know, we're from like East Village in New York. We didn't know shit, you know? We're like, whoa, Hollywood, this is so cool. So anyway, that's how I got the job.
So we have the character of Piggy. Okay, what famous person, singer, who smeared himself with peanut butter on his way to fame is who Piggy is based on?
Darby Crash.
So what's a Darby Crash? Well, we're gonna do hand raise right there.
Correct.
Iggy Pop.
And
I'm not gonna throw it, Matt.
I had seen theater play many times, and then I called this guy.
50 years in, and a man who's going to get a blood Columbia song and done, make pretty women scream and shout, tell the whole world what it's all about! Because I'm here! Everybody knows I'm here! Because I'm the Hoochie Coochie man, and everybody knows I am! Excuse me.
37 days of this.
Now, Lee, are you gonna do the stage dive into the crowd now?
And Lee came in, and basically I said I wanted that kind of, and you and I have talked about this. There's a certain kind of rock and roll which has no limits, which you wonder if the band is going to make it to the end of the song without burning up or destroying themselves. You know? The Who, during my generation in their prime, were like that. Iggy certainly is like that. I've seen it.
Phil singing I Love Living in the City is exactly fucking like that.
And he and I agreed on that, and basically it was like, let's turn you loose, and we kept that whole idea. That's why he's in chains and all that. That was it. That was the whole idea.
It was like punk rock happened and this film happened separately and at the same time.
And so I went now, our first AD, because we have a lot of, I mean, can you imagine dealing with this crowd? And so we hired this AD. We got his credits from John Landis, who had done Animal House. So we're talking to our AD, his name is Cliff Coleman. And so this is before the internet. And so Cliff, what other pictures have you done? And he goes, The Wild Bunch. I was like, you are hired, you know? So I take Cliff to the Palladium with the cameraman and producers, and we see Iggy Pop. And he does the same thing. He dives in the audience, he's being passed around, and I say, Cliff, can we do that? And he goes, oh yeah, I think we can do that. And then Iggy goes, if you know the Palladium, there's that circular stairs in the back. He goes up the circular stairs, onto the balcony, stands up on the balcony and is acting like he's going to jump. Well, the audience screams him on and Iggy jumps. And the audience goes crazy and I say, Cliff, can we do that? He goes, oh, we're doing it. So the jump was done in 3 pieces. you jumped off of the first section, you jumped off of that into a scaffolding, yeah, that caught you. Then you jumped off the scaffolding onto people who caught you. And in between, we had stunt people. If you look, next time you look at the movie, if you ever do, I jumped off the balcony first to show them that you wouldn't be killed. For all my AFI students, don't do that. Don't do that.
There's no joy like standing on top of something that's pretty high up and about 1,000 people screaming, "Jump!"
Okay, next question.
That's
The drummer, Toad. What band?
The Doors.
Correct. And I gotta, okay, why is his name Toad? What famous drum solo is called Toad? And by what band?
That person right here.
Ginger Baker.
Green, Ginger Baker.
That's it. Cream.
All right, let's crowd surf this back to him.
Okay, Captain Cloud. Who loves Captain Cloud? So, Captain Cloud was a combination in my mind of what people think the Grateful Dead are like, what a band called the Incredible String Band talked like, and Mad Dogs and Englishmen, the impact of all those people on the stage. And I met with Howard Kalin, and he was Captain Cloud. So, next question. What band was he in originally, and what was their big hit? And you have to sing a line from it, and we can't get the same people.
You already have one. You don't... Right there.
The Turtles.
And-
Happy Together.
And please, sing the chorus.
Imagine you and me.
I do. Don't you take?
It's on.
All right, he gets on, yeah.
How long to keep?
All right.
Gypsy Mother's out and now I was born got a ball top, come and be a son again. Make pretty women scream and shout, tell the whole world what it's all about. And I'm there. Everybody knows I'm here. I'm the fucking hoochie coochie man. Everybody knows I am.
So, we talked about some of the performers here. We need to talk about Reggie Wanker and Malcolm McDowell, because it's one of Malcolm's greatest performances.
The name came first. That was like the first draft. Being a member of the stage crew, we dealt with Danny and other people, a lot of, how do I put it, big personalities. And everyone was in their early 20s and had no idea what their limits were. And so we saw Rod Stewart on his first tour with Jeff Beck. We went to the Garden and saw the Stones. We saw every band of that period, and we saw people with lead singer-itis, you know. The world revolves around them, and that's where the character of Reggie came into it. And we had talked to lots of different rock stars to play it, and everyone turned it down. And then we thought, how about if we just forget that and get an actor? And we started thinking of an actor that could be as transgressive as we wanted him to be, and who had done music, which he had been in a movie. How many here have seen Oh Lucky Man? Great movie, right? And so we called up Malcolm, and we sent him the script, and he read the first 5 pages and threw it away. And told his manager he wasn't interested, and so we upped the money. And he said, okay, I will take a meeting. So I go out there with Hunt Lowry, the producer, and Hunt, really, let's give it up for Hunt Lowry for putting this together. This is $8 million, you know. And I mean, just for coming up, flooding the bathroom alone, you know. So anyway, we go out there and we're talking to Malcolm, and he says, I will only do this if I get to sing my own songs. We said, sure, can you sing? He goes, can I sing? Of course I can sing. Okay, Malcolm has to start on Monday. He goes to the set, and he's sitting in the makeup chair. And an Wanker. Oh, it's such an honor to work with you, sir, and this is great. Oh, thank you very much. And he goes, and you're going to sing? I'm going to sing. He says, how are you going to do that scene in the bathroom? And Malcolm hasn't read the whole script. And you got to get the Blu-ray because Malcolm tells us much better. And then he says, well, I'm just going to do it. And as the guy leaves, he turns to the makeup person, says, give me a script. And he reads, he goes, I talked to my fucking dick. And he went along with it, and Malcolm is so much fun. And if you're a film buff, to sit next to him and ask him, so how did you come up with those ideas in Clockwork Orange? What's Stanley Kubrick like? So Malcolm was fabulous, and if you get the Blu-ray, there's long interviews with him, and he tells these stories. And I once asked him what his favorite, what was the band that, first turned them on. I said, had you ever seen this band from the north of England, like Liverpool? And he said, I saw them when they were the Silver Beatles, mate. So he saw the Beatles before they were the Beatles. So.
Now, I want to talk about one of my favorite characters in the movie, or ask you about him. Who is Electric Larry? And how did you get him to show up? Just randomly, just for personal reasons, I want to know this.
Nothing leaves this theater. There were some usage of drugs in the 60s. It wasn't common. So there was a lot of good pot around in the 60s, and the groups always had the best pot. And then along came LSD. Now, Electric Larry is based on certain pot dealers, and the LSD scene where it gets put in the water actually happened, okay? The LSD was made by a guy by the name of Stanley Owsley. Yes, okay, all right. If you can answer this, what band was Stanley Owsley claimed to be the sound person for?
Well, besides the Dead.
There she goes, Grateful Dead sound man.
It made everything sound better.
And so he used to put, everyone who was a roadie with the Grateful Dead carried around a little eyedropper full of LSD, little things. And they were playing for 3 nights in the Fillmore East for many times. They played like 30 times. But they were playing with the Allman Brothers in the Allman Brothers Prime. And everybody was playing all night long, and all weekend we are saying, don't go near. They had names like Parrish and Ramrod and Hurd. Don't go near them, and if you do, and you have a beer or something, hold it in your hand. Because they dosed the shit out of Fleetwood Mac. Okay? You just came by to jam, So it's Saturday Night Late Show, and we have gotten through the whole Saturday Night Early Show. We've gotten through the weekend so far, and we know Saturday Night Late Show with these 2 bands, we're going home after dawn. So we got to stay straight. So I have to change the water on the stage crew, right? And I'm looking around to see if there's any roadies around. I see Parrish and Ramrod, not looking at me. So I grabbed a big water bottle, which in those days was glass, run down the stairs, grab a new one, bring it up, and put it down, and it bubbles. And I look at them, and they have this smirky look on their face. The entire stage crew, the entire people backstage were all dosed that night. And it didn't turn colors like that, but it might as well. And if you want to hear the music from that night, you can buy it. And that's how Electric Larry got in there.
1971, leavings in the United States Officer Candidate School, Army, Officer Candidate School, when my friend John had mailed me on a blotter a little round square that he recommended that I swallow. So while we're being chastised for not being perfect soldiers, I'm beginning to feel a little bit looser in my chair while I'm being yelled at. Pretty soon I'm up and I'm back in my bunk, and I got the sheets off the bunk and I tied them both around my head. I took all my other clothes off, and I'm running around the barracks screaming at the top of my lungs that this is the new way for wars to be waged. And this is the new way to train those who will wage them. And this is what will make us vanquish all of our enemies. And if any of you have any problems with it, come and see me now. I have something for you.
A guy started coming around that brought cocaine. He brought cocaine to the Fillmore East. And his name, as far as everyone knew, was indeed Electric Larry. And he used to have it in a briefcase. And that's when you really notice changes of behavior, and bands would start arguing and breaking up and all kinds of stuff. So that was kind of the broad strokes of how the Electric Larry character came into being.
Now, we talked about all the musicians that you have in this film. Let's talk about some of the other cast. The cast is incredible. You have Daniel Stern, Ed Begley Jr., just incredible all the way around. How did you end up casting everyone for this movie? How did you end up casting everyone for this movie?
How did you end up casting everyone in the film with all the...
Well, I used a lot of Corman people. Mary Warrenoff is in there. And Mary is playing a real... It's really mostly based on real people. Mary Warrenoff's playing someone whose real name is Candace Brightman. And Candace Brightman was the lighting designer at the Fillmore East for many years. A brilliant lighting designer, and got hired away from us to join the Grateful Dead. And so she joined the circus, and we never saw her again. And 25 years with the Grateful Dead, all the stadiums, so that was that. We had to have Paul Bartel. So we, and there was a doctor always at the Fillmore East who had this room called the Bummer Palace. And you would go in there and take care. So it says, who better to medicate than Paul? Stacy Nelkin we cast. Oh, Danny Stern got the part because he looked like me. And because of his part in that movie where he has the record collection.
Diner.
That's it, Diner.
Alan, what happened to Anna Bjorn?
Okay.
Wow, that's...
All right, so Anna Bjorn
Yeah.
was, I think, Miss Iceland.
Yes.
Wait a minute, I'm going to get to the point.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and we saw her in American Graffiti too. And we wanted someone whose beauty was like so far beyond what a regular human, and a certain look. And we named her Princess Chantamia because of a character in The Lady Eve. So Anna Bjorn played this part as a lovely person, and when I tried to contact her for being in the Blu-ray extras, we could not find her. And it seems that she is part of the Witness Protection Program. You can't make this shit up. Something having to do with Whitey Bulger. That's all I know.
Yeah, she lived in Santa Monica, and she used to always walk her dog. And she befriended this woman who used to walk her dog or something. And it was Whitey Bulger's wife. Yeah. And when it came, she saw something about Whitey Bulger and said, and saw a picture of his wife, and that they were wanted. And she says, oh shit, that's that woman I talk to every morning for, like a year. And so she called it in. Wow. Yeah, and then
Now,
she had to go back real fast.
Another thing I want to mention about Electric Larry, two of my favorite music cues in the whole movie is, one is the Electric Larry theme when he brings the drugs, and that is a guitar player by the name of Adrian Belew. I believe he was in King Crimson and played with Bowie, and that song's Big Electric Cat. And we were looking for something really psychedelic for the bathroom, and one of the editors said, how about something off the new Black Uhuru record? So that's a dubbed version of a Black Uhuru song. I mean, we had a lot of fun picking the songs, for this, and it's one of the things I enjoy the best, and recording the songs and so forth.
Can you talk a little bit about recording the songs for the movie? Because, Malcolm had to go in, you recorded at a specific studio, right?
Yeah, we recorded at the record plant. Oh, Malcolm in the studio.
Yes.
Okay. So, So we have this song written called Hot Shot, because it's an overstated, I'm the coolest person in the world. And we bring Malcolm in at the end of a shooting day, and, you know, we sing in the shower, we sing in the car, but when you sing in the record plant, and you are really hearing your voice on big speakers, it's really, as William Burroughs would say, the naked lunch. The reality sandwich of what's at the end of the fork. And Malcolm sounded terrible, and there was silence. And I looked at Malcolm, and he looked at me, and everyone then looked at me like, what are you gonna do? And I said, here's the thing, Malcolm. I don't think that you can really sing, but you can act better than any other singer I've ever seen. So let's get in here with the musicians, let's change the tune and make it more dramatic so that you can sing it. And once he did that one, we got that done. When it came time to do the crying thing, it was easy because when you record a song for a movie that's gonna tell part of the story, you actually direct that song twice. You direct it once in the studio, so you have the track with the emotions you want, and then when you go and shoot it, you put that emotions in there, and Malcolm just understood it and sang it with that emotion. And then we're shooting on the stage, and that young girl in the front row starts crying. 3 of them are all crying. It was amazing.
Yeah, the extras were so amazing.
And then look.
Recitar mentre presto tu sei pagliaccio.
Oh, let's go back on the record.
Lori, why don't you talk about how you were not a band and what you thought of them and who they were?
What, talk about?
The Not a Band.
Oh, okay, so, well, I didn't know any of them. I got out here and these girls were cast and part of the band, and they just threw us into rehearsal, and we rehearsed, and apparently, I don't even remember it, but recently we got together because of Alan to do interviews for this, and I talked to a few of them, and they were like, wow, you rehearsed the shit out of us, man. You were really like, you want to be good, you gotta do it again. I have no recollection of it, but I just remember coming from New York, and we were really street, and they weren't, and I was like, oh man, and actually we were into hip hop already, you know, it was '83, we weren't, punk was already, everything gets to LA I think a few years later, I don't know.
But they were all,
What he says, but I don't know.
they were all in bands, so they all could play.
Yeah, a lot of them were real musicians.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Man,
And
all of
Lori
them.
Bell, the drummer, was like amazing. No, all of them were real musicians. And the background singers had done it before. So it wasn't like, you know, it was just coming together and the song, you know, and I don't know. I don't really remember rehearsing it, Alan. I really
Yeah, but the concept is what got everyone.
Oh.
Yeah, the concept of, because you and I, and
Yeah.
because of my age, I grew up in the 50s and 60s with something that was called girl groups on the radio. So the Ronettes, the Crystals, the Chantels, the Dixie Cups, the Shangri-Las, and...
Be my little baby.
Okay, we have more of those? We have more of,
Yeah.
do we have any more of the...
Yeah, we have one more.
Okay, I gotta save it. So then, for me, it was bands like Fanny, and then Blondie, B-52s, Go-Go's, and that's the idea for the Not a Band. It's an homage to all those great musicians and who inspired me, and that's how we put it together. So, I really loved how that band came out. And Laurie and I have done videos together and so forth, and so we've been really good friends. And in prepping this, I thought, let's get the band back together. I had this idea that those women in their 20s should rock again in their 50s and 60s. And so we found almost all of them.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
And we found all of them, and I'm on the, when you speak on the phone and you see them with the, whatever that is, on your iPhone, and I said, Laurie Bell, when was the last time you played drums? And she said, oh, it's been 10 years. I said, oh, you don't have any drums? Because I had this idea of her playing. She goes, well, they're set up in the basement. Well, go down there. So we are talking, I'm watching her go down the stairs on the phone. I said, play something. She starts playing the drums. I said, I'm gonna feature you in the Blu-ray extras playing the drums. So everybody picked up their instruments. I made a how-to video of me doing the parts, showing you how to play the lens. I had to make 3 of them. And then they got sent out to everybody, and they all, on iPhones, filmed
All the Nada
themselves.
Girls.
Yeah, and then we brought
Every
Laurie.
song, and except me.
Well, yeah, but we brought Laurie out to my house.
What are you talking about? I don't know how to do that. I don't do selfies, and I don't even do social media. And he goes, oh, well, okay, well, come on over to my house and we'll do it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we set a date, and I'm thinking he's gonna have like a camera, and a little crew or something. No, he hands me a phone and goes, go up and go like this. And he has this boom box, and he puts the thing on, and I'm like, okay, and that was it.
That was it, and we had her do a bunch of takes.
Yeah, a bunch. I almost passed out in the sun around his swimming pool.
Yeah.
Glad we didn't do it at my house.
And the editors that I turned loose are guys who worked on the original movie. Kent Bader, who later went on to edit Spinal Tap. And Mark Helfrich, who edited the Jumanji movies. And they were both assistant editors on Rock and Roll High Schools. That's how far back. So I let them do that, and we cut together a video called Nada Band, Not Gonna Take It Anymore 2021, and it's on the Blu-ray. And it's my favorite thing. And she's kidding. She is awesome in it.
You sexy then, you sexy now, baby.
And we have back there, is Cody still here?
Yeah.
Come on, Cody, stand up. Cody Mundy, a member of Reggie's band.
Thank you very much. Grammy nominated.
All right.
Now, with the movie Shock, because again, this movie just looks like you guys had a fucking blast the whole entire time.
I thought all movies were like this. And then I went out to work in the film business. I was like, ugh.
Now, what was the editing process like? Because you had to keep the energy up for this movie at all times.
So it was shot on 35mm film. Mostly 2 cameras and some of the numbers 3. And it was edited on a Steenbeck, a 3-headed Steenbeck we could run 3 picture heads at once. I think we actually lashed together 2 of them. And I think we could run a bunch of soundtracks. And there was 3 editors working at once. And we overlapped all our actions and everything. And we did it away from all the executives. And we didn't hire, I was in love with this book on editing called When the Shooting Stops by a guy by the name of Ralph Rosenblum. And Ralph Rosenblum was an editor out of New York who embraced the new style of editing with movies like The Pawnbroker and 1,000 Clowns. And he saw a terrible, terrible rough cut of a movie that he thought was really funny, but no one knew what they wanted to do with it, and he took the job, and that was Woody Allen's first movie. So he cut Take the Money and Run, and he cut everything up through, the last one he did was Manhattan. He cut the producers, and so we brought Ralph out twice, and he watched our cuts, and because of the intensity of the movie, and we thought we could get really lost in telling this story, Ralph was like our anchor, and he really guided us through it. I have to say, of all the things I've done, I think this is one of the best cut, and that the editors did an amazing job. This is like pure propulsion, you know, the way it builds, and your number, Lee, I mean, I just love that, you know. I never get tired of watching that and the song, you know, so.
Bless you, man. Thank you.
The editing was great, and then we tested it, and the audience, not so much.
Let's hear it
And,
for Alan Arkish. Come on.
So we tested it, and the audience was confused, and our executives, well, let me just say this. One of them committed suicide, and the other ended up in jail. All right, so they decided to dump the movie, and that's what happened. They sold it off to a tax shelter group, stuck them with the money, put it out for 1 week and pulled it from theaters, and when they said this, they actually set up critic screenings and then canceled it when the critics showed up. So we got no reviews, but then when we got our reviews, we got good reviews, but by then you couldn't see it. It came out on VHS in mono, very fuzzy, and then so that's it, it's gone. And then I get a call about the DVD. And I go, oh, great, yeah. And they says, well, we have a problem. Do you remember where you mixed it? And I said, sure. And they said, we can't find any of the sound. What part of sound? We can't find I think it was a 6-track, or it was Dolby Surround, the basic units. And then they couldn't find the negative. The company that had been sold 2 or 3 times they'd lost track of where it was, and half the paperwork. Flash forward 25 years. I keep getting calls every 5 years. Do you know where it is and stuff? Because there's a bunch of prints around like this, and it gets shown on New Year's Eve. And Quentin Tarantino is a huge fan of this, and he runs it at the New Beverly. And Eli Roth, he loves this, and so Eli's actually on the commentary. And I got a call from Kino Lorber, and I said, don't say anything. The movie is at MGM. They had found it in their vault because they were bringing everything up to snuff for streaming. Don't say anything. We're going to make this deal. They are horrible human beings, but we will make this deal happen. It took a year for them to negotiate this deal because of all the music and the fact half the paperwork was missing. Oh, and a music picture, that's the nightmare. So finally, they called me up and said, you're on, you got it, we're putting it out. And would you like to work on it? And I thought, since it's so much a part of my life, it's not exactly, obviously, but having gone back to the 60s with this concept, I said, not only will I work on it, I want to direct and produce the Blu-ray extras. And I called up all the guys who were in the original editing team, and I said, you want to get together and work? We got $4,000. We're totally going Corman here. And it took us a year, and so this all on the Blu-ray. We did it with, on Zoom, and I was out of town, and it became so difficult to get back in town to do my part of the Zoom in my office that I bought a little green screen, and I had photos of my office. So all the shots of me in my office are actually green screened in. And Kent Bader cut the hell out of it, and we got all the Fillmore photos for $500 from the genius Amelie Rothschild, who shot them all. And we got every single person who worked on the movie said yes. And they're all in there, and it's great. And there's actually, because there's so much problem with rights, there's actually in our vault another hour and a half of stuff. An interview with Laurie, and every member of the cast talks about the first concert they ever went to, and so forth. So we still have that I'm going to sneak out, on something called the internet. So that's the whole backstory, and that's the long, strange trip that I've been on with this movie. And having it come out and stuff is really nice. And if you watch the Blu-ray extra, the way everyone talks about this movie and the experience of something that happened 38 years ago to them in a theater and a parking lot on the corner of Western and Wilshire, and the passion that they talk about and the experience, it just made, after all the pain that I went through on the movie, I'm doing fine, but just all the negativity, my whole head has turned around on what we accomplished. And as dated as some of it is, it's still funny, and it's still a dumb rock and roll movie, and that's what I was aspiring to with real rock and roll. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Let's hear it for Alan, come on.
Now, Alan, we have one more of these to give away. What's the final question here?
Oh boy, this is tough.
Give me one of those damn things.
All right, Lee wins it.
So you can get it through Amazon,
You get it direct from Kino Lorber.
yeah, and Kino Lorber is the fastest way, and also Movies Unlimited.
And I have some extra Christmas gifts here for things that I have extras of that I'm going to throw out. These are movie prizes for those who did get good crazy. I have Avenging Angel. Good catch. I have Beyond Terror, which is a very insane Spanish movie. Someone got that. And I have the old version of House on the Edge of the Park, David Hess, classy guy. I couldn't see the lights there, so if I killed you, I'm sorry.
So I just want to thank everyone for coming. It's really nice, to see it with an audience. For us, Lori hasn't seen it in 30 years. And if you go to Trailers from Hell, there is an hour and a half interview with me and Joe Dante where we talk about our favorite music movies. And so if you're a music movie buff, we get lost in the weeds. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Larry Eastside.